All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans and No Ball, here for the Week 4 recap. I see just about a quarter of the way into the season. Games just keep coming, starting to really get an idea of which teams are contenders, which teams are pretenders. So, not really extended intro. As always, Christian, let's get started with the recap.
Yes, obviously, let's kick it off the Thursday nighter of Week 4, which was a nice divisional matchup, the Lions and the Packers. Now, honestly, the Lions, they're really proving me wrong this season, realistically, and I know I had them going down low this season, and the Packers, with the praise I have for Jordan Love, he struggled this game really a lot. I mean, this Packers defense couldn't contain the run. David Montgomery ran through him the whole game. Jared Goff, he looked good, that interception in the beginning of the game, but after that, he pretty much capitalized off that and did pretty much well for the rest of the second half. Lions were pretty, inactive in the second half, but the defense did keep them in check in a way. Packers, it looked like the Packers were, having some momentum to coming back, but the defense of the Lions did step up. And the Lions are 3-1. This is something most people probably did not expect, including me. But Dan Campbell, his head coaching, he's doing a great job with his Lions team, switching up the fundamentals of this team. And as for the Packers, I still have my little hope for Jordan Love. Still my doubts on there. But as of right now, the Lions, they seem to be some pretty good contenders this season.
So we'll move it into the Sunday slate. Open it up early with the London game, start of the international series here. And a pretty great game for the Jaguars to open up their spell in London. They got 2 games back to back, so we'll talk about that later. But just a great game for Trevor Lawrence. Over 200 yards, got a touchdown. Obviously, that's kind of the only stat they led throughout the game, but that was all they needed. Just a great team win overall. We've seen as for the Falcons, Desmond Ridder really struggled. Threw a pick 6 to a former Ram and Darius Williams, and he threw back-to-back picks and just struggled overall. That's a bright spot. Obviously, the guy we're always talking about with the Falcons, Bijan Robinson, cracked over 100 yards again. Wasn't able to get into the end zone, but just he keeps showing why he is an obvious contender for Rookie of the Year. But it's just a lot of struggle with the Falcons, and for the Jaguars, just a great way to bounce back after a tough loss against Houston last week. But kind of see both of these teams trending in different directions right now.
Yeah, now moving on to another big AFC matchup battle that was heavily controlled by the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins, coming into this game, they were 3-0. They were probably most of the favorites to win this game. And as we're looking at this team, they played a good team, the Bills, after that slump they had before. But now the Bills, they seem to be on track now, especially on the Dolphins team that was good on both sides of the ball. And Josh Allen, he had a very, very great statement game. Fuck, I spazzed out. Just restart. Just pick it up then? From there? Yeah, Josh Allen, he had a statement game yesterday. Looking at Sunday, he had a very great game, throwing 4 total touchdowns, 5 total, including the rush. But against this Dolphins defense that, had some, flaws here and there, was able to keep some close games from the first 2, but obviously, and it does have its few views there. And then the offense of the Dolphins, they're trying there to keep up, but the Bills' offense was just rolling through and finally exposing that Dolphins defense. And obviously, everyone wants to say, oh, could the Dolphins be pretenders, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Find them playing a good team. I still think the Dolphins, they're going to compete this season, especially with how strong the AFC is right now. But looking at this Bills team too, they look like they're probably going to be the potential favorites here.
Yeah, so we'll move it into the Tank Bowl, the Caleb Williams Bowl, however you want to think about it. Just the Bears got into a really, really good start, 28-7 going into the third quarter. But little by little, Russell Wilson found himself. He chipped away little by little and tied the game up, and eventually took the lead right at the end with a great field goal drive. I can't say enough about the struggles for the Bears. I mean, even when you think they're kind of picking it back up, I mean, maybe find themselves after a tough start. I mean, a great game for Justin Fields, all things considered. 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. You really can't ask for much more there. At least, that first half was just phenomenal. First 3 quarters, I guess you could say. But I mean, just that was just about it for them. I mean, we know the whole Chase Claypool situation, which he was inactive. That trade was a disaster. Of course, Moore, which he got over 100 yards and a touchdown. That he was helping, but they just haven't been clicking. It's been a really tough start for the Bears. Can obviously see why it's probably going to be time to move on from Justin Fields after the season. Very easy to admit that my takes for the Bears this season were very far off. So we'll see where the Bears do move on in the near future. And just to close off with the Broncos, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it's going to be a tough road ahead regardless. They do have a tough schedule, so we'll see how Russell Wilson can lead these guys moving forward.
Yeah, now transitioning back into the AFC, another NFC North battle. The Ravens, AFC North battle. The Ravens and the Browns, and the Ravens just had total control of this game. Lamar, he was still a little slumpy, rusty the first couple of weeks, but this game, he had a better game than usual. The defense of the Ravens stepped up against this Browns team that, it's kind of hit or miss with them, how they were. Deshaun Watson, as soon as he was starting to get in his groove again, the defense of the Ravens, kind of put it back in its place. And the Ravens, I had them getting into the wild card spot, but the way they're looking now with Lamar started finally to pick up things where he left off last season and the other years before. He's finally starting to look great. He's looking real better. As for the Browns, obviously, Deshaun was out. And then the rookie quarterback from UCLA, Thompson Robinson, did make the start. Obviously, it was a very rough start for him. Really couldn't get anything done. I mean, he really couldn't do much, especially with how inconsistent the Browns could be sometimes. But obviously, closing off with the Ravens is a pretty big win, 28-3. Notable score. Everyone knows about that. Ravens, they got a pretty easy, easy next schedule for the next couple 5 games, so they could be on top of the AFC East for the most. And as for the Browns, 2-2, it's once again still early, but once again it's the Browns. They somehow managed to downfall towards the end of the season.
And keeping in the AFC North, just the disappointment of the Bengals just continues. I mean, we've seen how poor the Titans have looked. I mean, we saw their game last week against the Browns, how they looked, I mean, pretty horrible against a team that had, played the Bengals really good. So now you would expect this to be a little tighter, two struggling teams, but absolute domination for the Titans. Derrick Henry had a game, of course, what you expect from him. Got into the end zone and over 100 yards, which what we've been preaching ever since we started this channel. If Derrick Henry gets the ball going, the Titans are going to succeed. Didn't need too much success from Tannehill, but still, I mean, he got a touchdown, over 200 yards himself. So everything was clicking. It seems like everyone except the Rams recently have been clicking against the Bengals. But it's kind of looking more and more apparent that, I mean, sure, it was probably a fluke game last week against the Rams, but more than anything, the Bengals are really rushing Joe Burrow from this injury. I mean, he's not ready. He's obviously still got some nagging pain from that injury. He needs more relief from that. So they really need to probably let him get some rest, probably let him sit out a week or two. But I mean, regardless, it's easily panic time for the Bengals. I know how everyone talks about the 0-2 start. They could shake it off like nothing, but at 1-3 now, it's time to really start looking at themselves and see what's got to change here.
Yeah, now moving back into the NFC, another NFC South battle that we came up across, the Buccaneers and the Saints. Now, once again, this was another pretty big win for Baker, especially since it is a divisional matchup. And, the Buccaneers, are we starting to see that are they only good against bad teams? Because we saw they struggled with Philly last week, and that was I guess you could say, seeing what kind of team the Buccaneers could be. But once again, Baker Mayfield, he succeeded. How we love to praise Baker. We always wanted to see him, do well, especially with all the things that happened to him before with Cleveland, the Rams, Carolina, all of this. The Saints, I think me and you both had the Saints getting this division, I believe. But from the looks of it, with Derek Carr, he'd get after his injury last week coming back in, really did not help him once again. And we did have hope for Derek Carr to finally switch his career on with the Saints, but the Buccaneers just took total advantage of here. The defense really literally laid the laid down the fundamentals for the run game of the Saints. They couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't go anywhere in the pass. Couldn't go anywhere in the run. They really couldn't go anywhere. Baker was just slinging it. Godwin finally had a pretty good game for once. Evans still a great receiver. Evans, had a pretty decent game as well. And obviously with the run game with Rashad White, with the negative setbacks he was supposed to have this season, that wasn't going to do well. He did pretty mediocre on the ground. But other than that, closing it, the Bucs, pretty much could run away with this division. But once again, the Saints, if Carr getting it back together, it could be a time matchup between the two in the following weeks.
All right, so let's move it into my game. Not gonna extend this too much. Keep it short as I can. Easy to say, what a first half to hold them at 20-0. Just really, really exciting to see, everything clicking, O-line protecting Stafford, the run game getting, serviceable production at best. And, of course, the receiving game, Puka wasn't getting too much production, but he was getting up there in that first half. Everything just slowly starting to fall apart in the second half. We had that 23-0 lead, and little by little, Anthony Richardson just, as much as I would praise him ever since the start of the season, he's showing everything why. He's just like touchdown drive after touchdown drive, the Rams defense slowly started to just diminish little by little. I know how much I preach that bend don't break ability they've had, holding teams to field goals. Kind of came back to bite him and let Richardson, kind of do his thing this time. But sure, they came to tie it. I was shitting bricks throughout the game. It was going to be really annoying to see. It was just irritating to see, see them come back. It's the type of thing I went through in the Falcons game last season. But in the end, Puka Nacua really started to get it going. Stafford started getting the ball more and more, and his first career touchdown, what a way to get it, to win the game in overtime. Just great, especially with Matthew Stafford, the injury he was picking up, I believe it was his hip. Throughout the end of the fourth quarter, he was just looking in pain. He could barely walk. I kept saying, he just get out of the game at this point. You're doing more harm. You could tell how one-dimensional the offense was at that point, that they were just feeding the ball to Kyren Williams. Nothing was getting done. The Colts knew exactly what was coming. Gus Bradley had the easiest defense to draw up for himself. But eventually he got enough rest and he was able to get the ball moving and, got the win. It's not the way I'd like to see us win against a team like the Colts, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. The Rams are 2-2. It's a lot better than I would have expected to start the season without Cooper Kupp, but with him coming back, I do think it's a great spot to be in, and obviously I'll get into a lot more of that in the preview for week 5, but I'll take a win, as ugly as it was.
Yeah, and keeping it in the in the NFC, a tough, nice NFC matchup between the Commanders and Eagles. This should be an eye opener for Eagles fans. I don't know if you guys should be worried or not, but to the Commanders, living in a close game, especially leading into overtime. I know how I said earlier in the season that the Eagles defense was going to struggle a bit. They were going to, kick back a bit because of the amount of players they lost and how it was. And, that was true. These past games that they still won, that's all that matters. They won, and if it's working, it's working. But when you got like Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and that monster O-line, the offense is going to keep you in the game regardless. But the defense, they've been lacking this season. They're 4-0 though. Whatever they're doing, it's working. The offense clicking, but the defense, I should, as the Eagles fans, even though Cowboys, all the talk I can take, but for Eagles, I would, be, a little bit concerned how the Eagles can put up with great teams like the Niners, the Cowboys, Chiefs, those teams up there. That'll be the real test. But looking at this Commanders, they really kept it in the game with a good team like the Philadelphia Eagles. Sam Howell was looking good. The defense of the Commanders, was kind of holding up a bit, but it was a nice, decent scoring game, which then lead into overtime. But for the Eagles, should have a slight worry about, specifically the defense, but other than that, it's pretty much a nice, decent divisional win for the Eagles.
Yeah, so we'll move into another one of these little tank bowls and another battle of 0-3 teams in the Vikings and Panthers. This one really a big surprise to start. Obviously the Panthers went up to a 13-7 lead at half. Bryce Young was looking, Yeah, it was a great game back for him after missing last week with the injury. It was just a big surprise. The Vikings offense really wasn't getting it going. It was just tough overall. But obviously the massive third quarter, 2 touchdowns. Obviously both of them going to Justin Jefferson, of course. Who else? He's obviously something you really expected. He's keeping that really great pace. Still on just great numbers overall. But I mean, it was an ugly game for the Vikings overall. To see them struggle this much against the Panthers, of course. But the more you look at it, the more maybe it would be smart to consider starting a rebuild around Jefferson. We'll see how that looks moving forward, considering how that record continues to diminish. But just an eye-opening game for the Vikings, to say the least.
Yeah, now moving on to our next game, which was could have gone expected, probably worse, but the Steelers and the Texans. Now this is obviously you want the head-to-head matchup with this game, and this was a big wake-up call for Texans and Texans fans. CJ Stroud, I was wrong. I admit I'm wrong. I was wrong in the beginning of the season. I said that he was going to struggle, so I'll take my L for that. But CJ Stroud, he's doing it, man. He's the one out of the million Ohio State quarterbacks that are finally succeeding. And with the piece of the Texans that's finally going around here, D'Amico Ryans, whatever he's doing, he's doing great. Nico Collins, which is arguably going to be his number one threat, had a phenomenal game against these Steelers. Sure, yeah, the defense of the Steelers, it's whatever. But looking at the Texans, you wouldn't have expected that. And Nico Collins, he's going to be that good threat for CJ Stroud. Damian Pierce too. That backfield for the Texans, it's looking really, really good. But honestly, I wouldn't get my hopes up. It's still early in the season, but CJ Stroud, he has been getting it done. He's getting the job done. But this is potentially their franchise quarterback for the years to come forward. And as for the Steelers, as soon as it starts, things look good. Something bad always has to happen. Kenny Pickett left the game with an injury. There has been no news yet whether he will be returning or not, but it's going to be a huge blow for the Steelers team. They had, that ugly loss against the Niners, and they came back with the 2 wins. But honestly, Pickett, it was really hit or miss with him in these couple games so far. But if Pickett will be out for quite some time, it's not going to look good for the Steelers at all. They probably won't make it far whatsoever.
So we'll move it into another divisional game, a game that I really did expect to be close, but this Raiders-Chargers game, you always expect these to be close, always a great divisional matchup, but it was a lot more lopsided than the score shows. The Chargers defense, which was our biggest talking point about this team, what a way to show out. I mean, sure, it was against, the Raiders, a backup quarterback, say all you want, but just a great game, phenomenal game. Can't say anything less. I mean, Khalil Mack, the resurgence, his revenge game against the Raiders, to put it in that way. 6 sacks. I mean, he's the last guy you would expect to come out to come out firing like that. Just a great showing for him. Really, I mean, see if that can be something to show more to come. If this can be a turning point in this Chargers defense season. But apart from that, great interception from Asante Samuel to really close out the game as the Raiders were driving, hoping to tie this game up in the fourth quarter. Really, just another bonehead move by Brandon Staley, forcing him to go down, believing inside the 25-yard line. But I mean, overall, great game for the Chargers on both sides of the ball. Great wake up for their defense, and see how much this can help them moving forward.
Yeah, now moving on to my game. I'm going to keep this once again very brief. This is exactly what I expect the Cowboys to do moving forward. I mean, yes, it's a very, lackluster Patriots team with how it's been. Coming into this game, it was not supposed to be a game where, the Cowboys were supposed to, look down past this, as I always say. But the offense and the defense, they really clicked this game, and they really proved that, they're not going to let that Cardinals game, get the worst of them. Mac Jones coming into this game, he wasn't playing bad at all this season at all. He was doing good. It was just the lack of weapons, and, he just couldn't get the good job done until this game really proved that Mac Jones, once he goes against a very great defense, he just stumbles. And obviously, news said from Bill Belichick, he did say Mac Jones will remain the starter. And a lot of speculation going on with the Patriots saying, would they move on, this and that. Really doubt they're going to move on from Mac Jones. He's still young. He's going to have time to develop. It's just, past the Brady days, it's going to be a long couple years for the Patriots. Mac Jones will get accustomed though, but the defense really got so. Micah Parsons recording 10 pressures that game. That defense really clicked. And then Deron Bland, who I really expected to step up this season, especially after the Diggs injury. 2 picks, that pick 6, that pretty much, kind of set the tempo for the whole game. Really great, really good. The quarterback stepped up in the replacement of Diggs, which is what we need. We really need that. D-line was, getting the pressure as well we needed, keeping the Patriots offense off the field. Dak Prescott, phenomenal game. I think we recorded 90% of Pro Football Focus game, which is great. Really good to see Dak's finally getting more comfortable in the O-line. We got Tyler Smith back and Zach Martin back as well, which really, kept the momentum going with Dak. This is what I really love to see. Obviously, we have the Niners next week, which I will get into that for the recap. But the way the Cowboys played this game, this is what I really love to see. And now, moving on for the Patriots, they got a long season ahead of them. Obviously, I really hope Mac gets adjusted. Really needs a couple adjustments there. There's a very big eye-opener, though, for Patriots fans.
Yeah, so one last game in the late window to get into. In my division, got the Cardinals and the Niners. And basically what you would expect in this game. I mean, the Niners wouldn't say dominated overall, but I mean, they pretty much dominated. I mean, the story of the game, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, a hat trick of touchdowns. Just what a trade for the Niners this turned out to be. I mean, he's, I believe, what was it been, like 17 straight games with a touchdown now. Just insane production, easily the top running back in the league. Still kills me to think that the Rams were, just that close to trading for him back when he was trying to leave the Panthers. But I mean, we see how it's going to work out for the Niners. And obviously Brock Purdy stays undefeated as a starter in the regular season. And as for the Cardinals, just a really, I mean, they played better than, any of us would have expected. Kept it close in the first half, and sure, Niners ran away with it, but just about what you expect from the Cardinals. Still a little bit overperforming, but just a lot of the expected seen in this game.
Yeah, and then closing it off with our Sunday Nighter, which is a very, very good game that we did not expect to happen, the Chiefs and the Jets. This was a very, crucial last-minute game. This is probably so far Mahomes' worst game that he's had so far. I mean, he let Zach Wilson outplay him. This was Zach Wilson's literally legacy game, if you really want to put it to that. Zach Wilson was playing good. He's playing probably the best he's played out of his whole career. And obviously it ended because of that very controversial holding call on Sauce Gardner that would really kill the momentum of the game, which probably could have potentially at least had some hope for the Jets to win this game. But Zach Wilson, looking at him, everybody, I think Chris Jones was defending him after Rodney Harrison was trying to get him to bash. You love to see other players sticking up for, these type of guys who are not expected to be good. But and then looking at the receiving end, Alan Lazard was, finally stepping up, kind of, kept the momentum going for the Jets in this game, really keeping it close. Chiefs pretty much, they looked like they had it, really looked like they had it in the second half, but the Jets, they were coming back. Jets did outplay them by 5 points. But obviously, just that very controversial call just really, really kills the whole scenery of the whole game, which kind of sucks. Jets had a really great advantage to win this game. The defense was stepping up a lot, really stepping up a lot. Those 2 picks that Mahomes threw, really shifted tides with this whole game, and but obviously, story of this game was that call, and then obviously looking at this, everyone's taking advantage of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. I know me and you are already fed up with that, but hey, NFL marketing, publicity, whatever. This was the most viewed game so far since the Super Bowl. I mean, whatever it takes. But I mean, looking at the Chiefs once again, the top dogs in the AFC, and as for the Jets, Zach Wilson, he will remain as the starter, but defense can only do so much for them.
Yeah, so we'll close this out with Monday night, and I mean, it just keeps getting worse for the New York Giants. I mean, to put it simply, I mean, I get all the hate for Daniel Jones. I mean, he's playing pretty poorly. Don't get me wrong, but only so much of the blame can really go to him. I mean, first and foremost, you got to look at that Giants O-line. I mean, they're really killing him. They're not even blocking for him at this point. It was 11 sacks, getting up there close to the record. But I mean, overall, just a full complete game for the Seahawks. Great game defensively more than anything, with obviously the 11 sacks, 2 of them going to Devon Witherspoon, their top draft pick, which apart from that, they also did. He also did get that interception, the pick six. So just a complete game for him. Easily gonna be named the defensive player of the week here. I mean, sure, Drew Lock, who came in and really did well in the absence of Geno Smith. So I mean, we'll get more information to see if he is gonna miss any time or not. We'll get that information as soon as we can. But just overall, just a great game for the Seahawks. Can't really say anything else. You know, they're 3-1, just kind of keeping pace. I mean, I know I said they were going to struggle, but just to put it lightly, I mean, they're keeping pace with the Niners, and that's all they can ask for. But of course, that's going to wrap us up here for the Week 4 recap. Get our results from our predictions up on screen. And Christian, we had a great week. Probably the best week we've had ever since we started this. Yeah, you went 12-4. That I had the best week of all time at 14-2. I'll obviously take that. I overtook you finally at 39-25. You are at 38-26. Still obviously right next to each other. And also did overtake you in the head-to-head. I'm at 5 to your 4. So we'll see. Hopefully our expertise continues into week 5. So Christian, I'll let you get your preview started.
Yeah, so obviously we are visiting the San Francisco 49ers, and this is gonna be once again another great game. Gonna expect a very low scoring game just because of the caliber of both defenses, and happened last year in the playoffs. Very close game. There was a defensive battle, which we knew the outcome. But once again, I think between the Niners and Cowboys, I think this is going to be a test between both these two teams, finally playing each other, our opponents at the same caliber. When we're looking at Brock Purdy, he's doing great. I mean, you really can't say much about that. Undefeated as a starter. Sure, you can argue, the weapons he has. I mean, he has George Kittle, Deebo Samuel's finally, getting back into his rhythm as we talked about before. Brandon Ayuk, and then looking at this defense, it's scary. It's been doing his job lately. I thought it was going to be a little scary since they're keeping it close with the Cardinals, but it escalated to better for them, which obviously you expect. And looking at this Cowboys team, defense is also phenomenal. Offense is also starting to click again. Dak Prescott's finally getting in his rhythm once again, how he used to be. Having a great season so far, along with the run game. Tony Pollard finally getting accustomed to being the running back one situation. Obviously, he's a speed back, and obviously with the utilization of Rico Dodwell, who did leave the game with an injury. Hopefully, he's gonna be reevaluated, and then Malik Davis is gonna get hopefully some snaps back in the practice squad, so he can be with it just in case Rico Dodwell's not there. And then our fullback Hunter Lipke, he's a blocker. He got his first touchdown last on Sundays. So the rush block it's looking great. But when we look at this Niners defense, that pass rush is very filthy, just like the Cowboys. It's going to be a very nice, tight, close game, defensive battle both ways. And I think this is going to be, once again, another test for Brock Purdy. We tested him in the playoffs. We saw that look. But early in the season, finally two teams at the same caliber. It's going to be a test for both quarterbacks. And now moving on to that, for my highlight game of the week, it is going to be the Jets and the Broncos. Yeah, this is a crazy game to pick, but really look at both these teams, the Jets and the Broncos. Broncos finally got the first win over the comeback win over the Bears. The Jets had that one win over the Bills, been on a losing streak. Controversy between Zach Wilson as the QB, new speculations that if they should pick up another veteran, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Colin Kaepernick, blah blah blah, you name it. This game's really not really going to look down on him. It's going to be once again a proof for both quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Russell Wilson. Battle of the Wilsons, you could say. And then for these defenses, Jets defense is great. It's what kept them in the game against the Chiefs. It's what's been keeping them in each game they played. All my lies on the offense with Zach Wilson, and if Zach Wilson can get active, especially with Garrett Wilson on the receiving end, they could be a nice, win for the Jets. But when we're looking at the Broncos, their defense hasn't been clicking to the standards that there was last season, which was what, kept them close as well. It's the defense. Both these two teams' defenses are, pretty good up there. But the Broncos defense has been shown to be a little overrated, to be more overlooked on, as you could say. But really good. The test is really going to come down to the quarterbacks. Who's really going to lead the offense down the field? Which defense is going to make the most stops for them? It's looking like a matchup where it looks like a boring game, but when you really look at it, it's going to be very, very close game between both these teams.
Yeah, obviously a surprising game to pick there, but we got some storylines going. As for me, obviously I'll start with the Rams. We got a really tough matchup coming up against the Eagles. I know how you feel about them, Christian, but I mean, I'll start it with them just to keep that light. I mean, we know the storyline we keep going back to, which is their defense, which I'm starting to I guess agree with you. I would love to just full on agree with you just because I would love the Rams to take advantage of that defense, but I mean they are falling off little by little. I mean, especially to see giving up 24 points against the Commanders. That's obviously eye-opening to look at right away, but I mean it's a struggle, and I would really hope, and I'm already expecting it, to see that they'll have a nice bounce back game against us, because that's what seemingly everyone's been doing in the past 2 years. But as for really getting into the Rams, Cooper Kupp should be back. That's obviously the main storyline, at least for me. Expecting him to be that 1-2 punch with Puka Nacua. I really do have high hopes. I expect, it's up to them who they want to double and pick your poison and see. Hopefully, I know Kupp's still rusty. He hasn't had any game action, so it's going to take him a while to get into the game. But I expect him to have a good game to open the season. Hopefully pick up on the trajectory he was going on last season. As for everything else offensively, as much as we say about the Eagles defense, how they're kind of starting to struggle, I really hope the O-line can take advantage of that and really give Williams enough holes to pick up where he left off last week. He had a really good game with 2 rushing touchdowns last week, so hopefully he gets in the end zone again. But it really all comes down to that, the O-line and how ready Stafford is. I'm gonna take the Eagles. It really pains me to do it. I'm gonna pick against the Rams this week, but always open to being proven wrong. I really hope to be proven wrong here, because I know Philly's beatable, and I know this Rams team has the capability to do it. So hopefully we end their undefeated run here, but not holding out a prayer for that. But as for my highlight game, keeping it back in London with the Jaguars, they'll play back-to-back games across the pond for, I believe it's the first time anyone gets to do that. Obviously, it was going to be the Jaguars. And they get to play the Buffalo Bills, which obviously I've been talking much about them, which sure, I picked against them last week, and they absolutely shut me up with how they shut down my MVP pick in Tua. But I'm expecting another great game for the Bills. The Jaguars are kind of a hit or miss team, obviously in a really mediocre division. So I do expect Trevor to struggle here. Overall, I expect Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, that connection, to really be fruitful for them. Even for Gabe Davis to kind of get himself back up, which he hasn't seen as much production, of course. He sees good production, but not as much as he would probably like, especially having Stephon Diggs on that team. But I expect everyone to get the ball fed to them. It's going to be a pretty good game against, to me, a really mediocre Jaguars defense. But I'll keep this game close. The Jaguars are never a team to go down easy, but it's going to be a pretty telling win for the Bills. But of course, that is gonna wrap up our Week 5 recap, Week 5 preview, of course. And just keep it light here. Not gonna win this out. Just been treated to a lot of good football. Hopefully, a lot more of that to come. Might get some videos out with a lot of these injuries. Might get to give some big news for you guys. But apart from that, we'll see you guys on Sunday for our early video, and thank you for watching. Hope to keep all your support throughout the season, and we'll see you soon.